Hey everybody, and welcome to the CID first shot for Primal Terrors for the Legion of Everblight. I'm Will Hungerford, and I'm here with Will Pagani.
Hello!
And this is the first CID of 2018, so we have been hype the whole time waiting for it. I felt empty inside. I know you've been a shell of a human being without CID.
I just sit there and refresh the CID forums when there's not a CID cycle going on, and I feel like I've been doing that for a month and a half.
If you think you know sadness, you should imagine Pagani on Christmas Day waking up, not even opening presents, and just going to the CID forums and hitting refresh over and over again, knowing nothing's going to happen. So our lives are incomplete without this or without you. So today we're going to be talking about all the cool stuff that's coming out in the Primal Terrors cycle, which I mentioned is for Legion of Everblight, and is focused on the Blighted Ogren. They were first introduced when Legion first came out with the Warmongers and obviously Thagrosh. They've always been a big part of the faction, and now we're seeing them really get expanded with this release cycle. So let's, to let everybody know, we will be taking questions from both Facebook and Twitch as we're talking about the individual models. And then again at the end, once we've talked about everything, we will take some more questions. If we missed your question, we will try and get back to it. We won't be able to answer all of them, but we will try and be as interactive with you as we possibly can. If you're watching this on YouTube, we'll also try and repeat the questions so that you know what we are talking about. And before we get started, if you want to participate in the community integrated development cycle, join us at cid.privateerpress.com. It just started today, and it's going to run for 2.5 weeks, if I'm not mistaken.
A little bit more, yeah.
Yeah, close enough.
I think it's 19 days.
Cool. Rock and roll.
But who counts?
You?
I do. But does anyone else?
Yes.
Oh, well.
So let's kick things off with the new warlock coming out this cycle. Anamag the Doom Feaster.
She feasts on Doom.
Yep.
There's no rule about that. She just does it for fun.
No. So why don't you tell us a little bit about her as a conceptually?
Well, conceptually, she is a Blighted Ogre and Warlock, of course. She supports her army with her magic, so she doesn't have a ton of things that are going to be like, this blows up entire units of infantry, or this shuts down people from doing this kind of stuff.
This isn't a veil.
She's not huge on offensive magic.
Yep.
She does have some pretty powerful offensive spells, but they're not those key things like Obliteration or Crippling Grasp or that kind of stuff that we see on a lot of our offensive spellcasters. So she's mostly about buffing her own stuff, but she is a Blighted Ogre still, so she's kind of a baller in combat being
she's Mat 6 Power plus Strength 14,
lady,
right?
Right, that's no Mat 5 Pow whatever Sevi 1 is, right? So she's like an old lady, but she's she works out.
Yeah. Yeah,
so.
Ogrins are just buff in general, right? They're just tough folk.
Yeah. And then that's also reflected in her defensive stats, right? She's got 14, so that's a pretty solid defensive stat. And then she's armor 17, which is pretty good for our just sort of castery type warcasters or warlocks. So that is reflective of her ogre nature.
Yep. There's a lot of, as you were mentioning earlier, there's a lot of stat stacking you can do with her, probably more so than anyone else can do in Legion. She's got access to Carnage for the +2 map. She's got access to Fury Strength, which is a new spell that gives a warrior unit +2 strength. It's not upkeepable, so you can cast it multiple times. She's got Bond of Gristle and Bone for +2 armor and Feign Death on a unit, which is upkeepable. And her feat says all warrior models in her control range gain Grievous Wounds and Dark Shroud. So there's a lot of accuracy and damage buffs you can stack, as you were mentioning.
Yes, she can take things like Blighted Rotwings, which we're going to get to here in a little bit, and just really crank them up to 11. Every single warrior model on the table is a threat with her.
Yes.
So that is sort of key to her, is that she takes her troops and jacks them up really, really strong. And it is important that it's troops as well. We don't want her buffing up warbeasts and stuff. Yeah. Because we want her to be with her Blighted Ogre, and we want her to be with that concept.
But she kind of incidentally ends up with the feat alone. Dark Shrouding something allows a beast like Golab to go in and get even more damage.
Well, certainly. But we don't want it to be her focus, right?
Correct. Yeah. And one thing we were testing with her, and we want you to test with her if you participate, is this stacking of these various buffs too much? Is she taking a unit and pushing it far too far to where your opponent or you, if you're facing it, felt you couldn't possibly overcome it, or that you had no strong counterplay? Because there should always be a good counterplay. And so let us know as you put her on the table and give her a few spins. See if we have any questions yet from either of our chats. Aside from...
Nothing particularly around Anamag, no.
No. Well, somebody's really excited about her tail. She does have a sweet tail.
She has, oh my god.
Yeah, she has a tail. She has a tail coming out of the back of her I'm going to say gown. Is that
We'll
a
stick
gown?
with gown.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with gown.
Stick with gown. My favorite part of her, just looking at her concept art before we drop it, is the amount of other Ogren heads on her pike. Like, at some point, she's like, I'm going to put as many of these on here until it's, like, uncomfortable for me to carry.
Well, it's because, like, she's the boss, right?
Yeah.
Like, all these Ogren were like, nah, you're not the leader. And then she's like, your head's on the stick.
Yeah.
Now. I am the leader.
So, let's move on from her, shall we?
Yes, let's.
And go on to her personal warbeast and a new character warbeast for the Legion of Everblight, Golab. Golab is first off, he's not a dragon spawn conceptually.
He is not a blood creation.
Yeah, he was not created out of one of the cauldrons, or one of the spawning vessels. Nobody had to almost bleed themselves dry to make him. He is a blighted giant vulture monster. And you're going to see this sort of carrion bird theme throughout his rules.
Yes. Yeah. So he's really quick, which is sweet. He flies, just like vultures fly. So that kind of makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're just very obvious with our rules.
We could have given him leap for no reason. He just hops around.
He has Carrion Feast, which certainly ties in here, which basically when things are destroyed around him, he gets to heal and he eats them basically so they don't generate corpse tokens.
But he also RFPs.
Correct.
So if they're destroyed within 5 inches of him, he's a 5-inch bubble of RFP, which, as we know, it can be incredibly strong against certain matchups.
Yep.
And
It's we've already seen it on the Facebook group. People are talking about how it's very strong into Grimkin, which is definitely true.
it works on living and undead. So any Ghost Fleet matchups?
It also works on your models, so they can't even get your corpses.
Yeah.
So
But
if they
being-
kill your stuff, if you kill their stuff, he eats it all. He doesn't care.
Yep.
He's got a Tropic Force that shuts down healing and tough, which is just generally very good. It's one of those rules to me that is very powerful because you can apply it to things like Gargantuans where you can't normally do grievous wounds.
Yes.
So it does work against battle engines and Gargantuans and all that kind of stuff. So you can get around some of the built-in strengths of those models by taking a model with Entropic Force.
Yep.
And then he's got Finisher, right? Like he's preying on weakened prey. He's a carrion feeder, so that's sort of what he does.
Which we should talk about Finisher real fast. When you do look at his weapons, he has 3 initials. He has a beak at Palpable Strength 14 and a pair of fists at Palpable Strength 13, which both have open fist. And on a 17-point warbeast, you might be like, man, that seems a little bit low on a heavy. Like, we'd expect maybe 15s or 16s. Remember that he's got Finisher, and I think you can look at models like Malik Karn, who has Weapon Master. I mean, this is effectively Weapon Master. You just got to make sure that you plan ahead for it and deal the damage before you send them in. And he's going to be hitting at the same power as another heavy, if not above.
Yeah. And then, of course, his bond with Anamag gives both of them Swarm, I believe. Yes, they both gain Swarm. I was making sure she got it as well. I was get a little confused on that one because we go back and forth on that sometimes. So, they both pick up Swarm, which really helps out his defensive stats. Step 13, not super great.
15, 17, solid, though.
15 against shooting is great, and then, of course, if you're playing into living, they give the -2 to attack rolls.
It's really good.
Fantastic defensive stat. So it's sort of a situational 15, which is awesome. And then Lightning Strike, which I don't think we've actually mentioned yet, which I always get a smile whenever we do anything with Lightning Strike.
Yeah, introducing Lightning Strike to Legion is a big deal.
Yes. Yeah, I think like House 2, right? Like that guy loves it. Thagrash 2 picked up an update in this. He's really going to love it. Anamag, where she normally isn't charging stuff, she certainly can. And I think that Lightning Strike lets her play a little farther forward with her spells and stuff and get those buffs out there to where she wants them.
You know who doesn't care about it? The Veil.
Yeah, that's true.
Veil doesn't care at all.
No,
not whatsoever. There's one rule we haven't mentioned yet that I actually love on him, because we don't see it often on character jacks or beasts. He is Veteran Leader. He's Veteran Leader with the Blighted Rotwings, which we'll talk about here in a moment. And I think it's just really cool, the idea that he's the giant Blighted Vulture, and then there's the unit of smaller Blighted Vultures, and that they kind of go together as a pack. They also have Finisher. So you just got to imagine, like, the carrion bird thematic on the table is going to be great. Somebody just does like a single point of damage or hurts something, and then these vultures just come out of nowhere and just rip it to pieces. And I can't wait to see that happen more.
Yes. So there is actually a typo on that ability in Golab as well. It says Blighted Vultures are his Veteran Leader. That is Blighted Rotwings. They used to be called Blighted Vultures.
We'll fix it. Let's see if we have any questions on Golab before we move on to Amok, the Truth Bearer.
We did have a question from earlier from Shroomify here, which is, there seems to be a trend of warlocks being able to benefit from vet leader abilities. Is this a trend going forward? No, not really. It's not something that we are actively trying to encourage, but when it does come up, I think it's really cool, and I think it really plays into some of the thematics of the different casters.
Yep. It's really a case-by-case basis for these things, and if it makes sense, and if it goes into the playstyle, if it fits their theme as well. So I wouldn't say expect to see a whole bunch of it.
No, but
It can come up.
where it's applicable.
Yeah.
It is applicable.
We do what we want, but we listen to you because we love you. So let's move on from Golab and let's talk about the new warlock attachment specifically for Primal Terrors, Amok the Truth Bearer.
He is strong. 'Cause he's got a big old rock. That rock got to weigh at least 800 pounds, right?
No, 800 pounds?
Look at that rock. That's a giant rock.
I don't know that it's 800 pounds.
800 pounds of rock.
It,
Hashtag. Let's make it happen.
have you ever carried a safe, like a metal safe?
Yeah, that was terrible.
I carried a metal safe that was like about 4 feet tall, and that was 500 pounds. So I don't think that rock's 800 pounds. Chat will tell us.
Agree to disagree.
Chat,
Agree to disagree.
how much does that rock weigh? But so Amok is sort of this blighted. I don't want to say oracle, but he's definitely sort of a shaman spiritualist, and he provides a lot of different unique abilities that won't always necessarily come up every single game, but the ones that do come up are going to be amazing. And there's some that you can almost guarantee on. For example, he has Rise, and he has Leadership, Blighted Ogren, Rise, which makes them stand up from being knocked down. Almost all of them are tough, so you can play to that if you're taking him only for that. He's got Spiritual Conduit as well, so you get the +2 range on any non-arced spells, which is going to be useful. But then he's got Arcane Void and Exorcist,
Yes.
which are situationally useful, but man, when they come up, they're crazy.
Very, very relevant.
Yeah.
Like if you run into a bunch of Druids of Orboros, or you run into
Denegra
Which I
2 with
will-
her new feet?
sure, yeah.
Like just having your feet
Oh,
not
sure,
work?
sure. Well, I was talking about Arcane Void.
Oh,
right?
sure, yeah.
Like if you run into those spellcasting units, this guy has a Command 9 bubble of, hey, maybe you don't want to do that or you're going to die. So I think that's a very powerful ability that we need to keep an eye on.
Yep.
So when testing, when you do run into those builds, does it just completely shut them down? Do we need to address something like that? Is it fine? Is there counterplay allowable in those builds that you're playing against? That kind of stuff is important to think about here. And then, of course, Exorcist, right? Like you just brought up Denegra 2.
Yeah.
Great example. She wants to defeat and charge through your army. This guy says, nah, man, get out of here.
Yeah.
You ain't no ghost. I ain't afraid of you. There's also a pretty huge lack of magic weapons in this theme force, so having a way to deal with incorporeal is important. And this guy certainly does that.
He's also arm 16, 8 damage boxes, and tough for a warlock attachment, which is upper end survivability, so that's really good. We had a question from the chat from, I believe, Mr. Gabo that asked, are there going to be more vulture models coming out to go along with Golab with Blighted Rotwings? No.
Not at the moment, anyway. I mean, the future could be anything, but this is all that we have planned for this things at the moment, or they would have been included in this cycle. Were there more?
So no.
So no. But maybe.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. I want to see what the
can
rock
always dream.
the rock weight guesses are. Let's see. 500 pounds sounds right according to JP Great One. 1 billion pounds according to Swamp Mist, which is
Swamp Mist, I don't think it's going to be a billion, buddy.
yeah.
But
Hot Lettuce, which is I don't even what does that name mean, but I love it. Hashtag 800 pounds.
yeah,
No.
that's my new hashtag now.
It's
I'm just gonna,
hashtag
like,
800
I'm gonna
pounds.
post and I'm gonna be like, week 2 posted for Legion CID, hashtag 800 pounds.
And to follow Hot Lettuce, 10-minute pie says the rock weighs over 9,000 pounds.
Of course.
How many people have usernames based off of food?
I'm gonna bet a lot.
Doug Hamilton says 800. Kuzo Kuhn says 800. Travis Scott says 821. It's not 800.
Close enough.
No.
It's close enough.
No.
It's close.
You're
We're gonna
off.
round it.
Let's see if we have any questions about Amok before we move on to the Chosen of Everblight unit. Blighted Onyx asks, is it a rock or is it metal?
Maybe a little bit of both. Maybe it's a rock wrapped in metal. 850 pounds. 50 pounds of metal. 800 pound rock. Hashtag.
I'm going to go with rock, but I'm going to paint mine like a rock, so mine will be a rock.
Like a rock.
All right, looks like we have no other questions on that. People just agreeing with what we were talking about mainly. Let's talk about the Chosen of Everblight, one of the scariest cavalry units we've ever produced. First
so
off,
excited.
look at them. If you'll notice, the concept art for every unit has a comparative mass at the bottom. It says this is about the same as a Warmonger. This is about the same. I want you to take a close look at the Chosen of Everblight. The comparative mass is not applicable.
Yeah, these guys are going to be massive.
Oh, they are so big. So before you talk about the rules,
Sure.
Conceptually,
These guys are little mini Cali.
yeah, I mean, just take an
That's the
ogre.
plural of callus.
Yeah, take like an ogren centaur, like an ogren tar. Yeah, like a blighted ogre and then just give it a big ass weapon and say, "Go kill things." Chosen of Everblight.
Freeway73 says they got terror? Question mark. Oh wait, if terror still existed in the game, these guys would have it.
They'd have Abomination.
That's fair.
If this was Mark 1, they would have Dread. If you want to go old school, that was on the rack. So tell us a little bit about the Chosen of Everblight.
So these guys are sort of the heaviest heavy cav we've really ever made. They are super durable. So you may not see it at arm 17, but they have 8 wounds each, and then they have rapid healing. So every time they are damaged, they then immediately after that damage heal D3 boxes back. So if you don't kill them in one hit, they're going to start healing.
Yes.
If you have lower POW attacks, they're going to start healing off those. And then there are, of course, a couple armor buffs in the faction. You've got the Blightbringer, which we have tweaked a little bit in this update.
Yes.
Anamag has Bond of Bristle and Bone.
Yes, which that's +4 armor right there on
Yes.
on these fellas that with the rapid healing, and that's one of the things we definitely want to stress test.
Absolutely.
Is arm 21 8 damage box tough fellas that have rapid healing too much?
Is it too much, or is it like a definition of the theme force, right?
Yeah.
Because if it's something that's really interesting and unique and cool about this theme force, great. Can you deal with it is really the question. So do these things need to be toned in any way in terms of their survivability?
There's a cool interaction with tough and rapid healing, by the way, which I don't think we've had on another model yet, which is that if you take them down, they make their tough roll, and then they heal back up, in addition to the one they heal from tough. So, like, it's a potential that you finally put one down, it makes a tough roll, and then it starts making on its way back up. And they're Blighted Ogre, and so if you have Amok around, they've got Rise, so they just get back up.
And then, of course, with Anamag, Bond of Bristle, and Bone gives them Feign Death.
Yeah.
So you can shoot them. If you do actually kill them, they fall down, maybe. They can't be shot again because they have Feign Death, and then Amok stands them right back up.
Yep.
And then they charge away.
Mr. Lopez says, perhaps the engravings on the rock from Amok are a secret message from Privateer Press. They are. Good luck deciphering it.
It has to do a lot with bananas.
Yes, but it's a very important message. Anything else you want to talk about the Chosen real fast?
Yeah, so these guys are not supposed to be super fast. So they're only speed 7 as far as cavalry goes. That's lower. There are other speed 7 cavalry, like I believe the
Long Riders.
Long Riders are. Those aren't out yet, so never mind. But they're on the lower end for cavalry here. We don't want them to be super fast. We don't want these guys to be screaming across the board. 7 is a lot, but there's not a ton of speed buffs for infantry and legion. So that's sort of their high end, basically. We don't want these guys like jamming you out on turn 1. So when giving feedback, keep the speed low, keep the survivability high, keep the damage in this kind of range. So they've got a POW 13 with reach, which is strong, and then it's got brutal charge.
Yep.
So we want counterplay of brutal charge. We don't want them to just be POW 15. We want people to be able to jam them up, and they're only POW 13. So all of these things are kind of built-in weaknesses to these very, very durable models that we want to keep.
And they have a POW 14 crit knockdown mount as well.
Correct.
So,
Yes, they do have sort of 2 initials, right?
Yep. Somebody's asked, because we're talking about how big they are, if they're on larger than 50 mil bases. No, they're large base models. So they're going to be on 50 mils like the cav you're used to, unless you play Grimkin, in which case, whatever. But they're just going to be huge.
Danny Mork asks in our Facebook chat, how many points are they? They are 12 for 3 of them, or 20 for 5 of them.
Yep. So this puts them in the high-end elite cavalry sort of bracket, things like the Bane Riders, Long Riders, that sort of area. Let's see if we have any other questions real fast about the Chosen of Everblight. And again, as you test them, the main thing we're looking for is, with the buffs available, are they just impossible for your opponent to be able to deal with whatsoever? Especially if you bring, what?
We do want them to be tough.
Two units?
But not,
yeah, FA2 is where we left from now.
But not unreasonable.
Let's see.
We do have a chat question from Twitch here, from Drolfdeer, I guess.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to stick with it. He finds it weird that they, quote, only have POW 13s. They look a lot beefier than Warspears/Warmongers. A lot of their beef is into their mounts, which are POW 14. And then, of course, they do have that brutal charge. So this is sort of a situation where the look of the model and the exact storyline behind it does not necessarily directly correlate to rules.
Chatty,
these guys are obviously super buff. They should be like POW 23.
on the Facebook, Chatty asks, are they a unit of 3 up to 5 like other cav? Yes.
Yes, 3 or 5.
3-5, 12 points or 20 points. So let's talk about the other unit coming out, which is about the polar opposite from these elite.
I don't think you get any more difference from here.
The Blighted Rotwings. So why don't you tell us about these little birds?
Well, these guys actually kind of remind me a lot of the Carrion Crows.
Carrion Thralls.
From Crix,
Yep.
in terms of what they look like and how they sort of function on the board, but what they do is a little bit different. So these guys got Finisher. We talked about that earlier with Golab. It can be very deceiving with Finisher. And then they have Sitting Vulture, which gives models in base-to-base with a -1 defense. Enemy models, I'm sorry. So they're a very cheap unit, very fast, at speed 7. And we want these guys to be running sort of in front of your army. So whereas if you lead with Chosen, they can get charged, they can get killed very easily. If you lead with Rotwings, fine.
Yeah.
They're 12 points for the full 10-man unit. And they bring a lot of utility for having very few rules. So they start out at map 5, which is not great. They pick a Veteran Leader from Golab, and then of course with Sitting Vulture they can get another +1. With Anamag you can Carnage them. So that gets up to +4, making them mat 9, which is
You'll hit
Primo.
Somebody asked, does Sitting Vulture stack? No.
No, it does not.
No, it does not.
So
think of it like Dark Shroud. Dark Shroud doesn't stack more than once.
Yeah, so you can only get a total of -1 defense from Sitting Vulture.
Yep.
But these guys are sort of a half skirmishing, half utility, half tie-up unit. So,
And just having like a flat -1 def debuff available in the faction now, depending on where you put it. I mean, obviously they're for Primal Terrors, but there are a lot of other things you could do. Also, just in Company of Iron.
they're very good at Company.
Yeah, they're really good in Company of Iron. But this is going to be a very powerful unit, and we're paying very close attention to Sitting Vulture and what it does and what it opens up for the faction, and making sure that it's not too much, it's not too strong, and make sure these guys are appropriately costed for what they do.
And sort of as we said, you can stack buffs on these guys really, really well. So like Ignite from Callus, Anamag's Strength spell, Anamag's Feet are all very relevant spells on these guys, because this POW 9 jumps to POW 11. Like Weapon Master with Finisher, they can do a ton of damage.
You throw the Fury spell up on them from Anamag, you Feet, so they have Dark Shroud, get a Carnage up there, send these guys in, and they'll just rip things apart.
Yeah.
Brian Koopmans says, they seem fairly priced for what they do, but initially seem a bit too powerful. Well, that's what the CID process is for, is to get some testing on the table. Let us know your battle reports and your results. Tell us, once you get some playtime, were they too powerful? Were they underwhelming? What happened in your games? And we sort of take all this information from all the players, and it helps inform our final decisions of what we need to do to make sure they're in the right spot for when they finally release.
Yes.
And Randy asks, so they qualify as warrior models? Yes, they are a warrior unit. So let's move on to the last new model in the current cycle before we go to the legacy stuff, and that is the new Blighted Ogren Warmonger command attachment, Gorog Rotnai.
Yeah.
Before you talk about the concept, I want to just take a second to look at the concept art.
He got a mouth.
Look at this guy.
He got 2 hands.
Look at him. That is one of the most fearsome looking Blighted Ogren we've ever created. Like, his whole, I love his head. I just want to get like separate bits of his head. And I love that he has
You gotta
that.
make it weird, right?
Oh, dude, look at it. Like, that is my style of model, man. I mean,
I like the big back banner. I think that's really cool.
I love minions. I love Blind Water. There's something kind of Blind Watery about him, in that giant like bone rack with the skulls hanging off it. I just love this guy.
So something to say, because we are talking about this concept art a lot on all these models, is we don't get to see a lot of this stuff as developers. So
we get a description.
We get a description of it, and then when the artists come back and they show us this stuff, we're like, oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
So like we're kind of hyped up with you guys at the same time while you guys are
We are legit nerding out with you. In fact, I saw Gorog for the first time yesterday.
Yeah.
That art of him. I had seen sketches and other things, but that was the first time I saw like the real thing.
So a lot of times on Facebook, I'll get tagged about the Northkin Elder and how he has a little hammer on his belt.
Yes.
And people are like, but he doesn't have a melee weapon.
Yeah.
And my normal response is, well, that hammer is for carving runes, not for bopping.
Yeah.
If you want to see what a bopping hammer looks like, Gorog is holding a bopping hammer.
Yeah.
So that hammer was made for bopping, not carving runes.
Yeah. That's a flanged mace, I believe, is the proper.
That is what I would call it.
The proper term for that weapon, or you can call it the booping stick.
Yeah.
And he will boop your skull out the back of your head.
Not a one piece though.
Oh no! It'll crack open like an egg.
Yes.
Let's talk about him for a little bit.
Legion banner, skulls for days, big beep, whack-a-bonker. I agree with you. Oh man, that color is hard for me.
That's yellow.
Side realist.
Side realist. I like it, buddy.
Yeah.
From our Twitch chat.
Yeah. So
whack-a-booper.
let's
Whack-a-bonker.
Whack-a-bonker.
Ooh, we can go a lot of different ways with this one. It's very modular. I like it.
Yeah. Whack-a-booper, whack-a-bonker,
Yes.
boop-a-snooter.
All in on it.
The snoot breaker.
I'm gonna need you to calm down.
I can't. Hashtag snoot breaker. All right.
Okay. This is like every day in the office for us, by the way. We just sit there and annoy Oz.
Yep. So let's talk about Gorog.
Sure. So he's a warmonger, so he's got all the basic stuff. He's got berserk. He's got tough. He's got 8 wounds, which is not part of the basic stuff. Gotcha.
He has unyielding.
He picked up
he'll-
unyielding, which they picked up as well.
Yep.
So we're going to get to that in a moment. And then he's got powerful charge, which I don't actually remember if the unit picked that up, but I know the chieftain did. Yeah, and then he's got a secondary weapon, which is the horns. So he's picking that up separate from the other Blighted Ogre.
which have crit knockdown.
Correct, yes. And then the things that he does for his army/unit, he has no quarter. So originally a pirate mini feat, but I think it works really well here. It's sort of like these Blighted Ogre don't care. They're going to get in there. They're going to wreck you.
Yeah.
Which gives the unit +2 movement and Pathfinder, which is really, to me, something that the Warmongers needed. We thought a lot about what to do with Warmongers and how to sort of differentiate them from Chosen and from War Spears, and how we could do that. So one of the ways that we did it was unyielding, and another way is with this mini feat of no quarter. They get Pathfinder, which is great. And then, of course, it increases their threat range by a bunch, which survivability was one of their issues. They do get taken down relatively easily. So getting there faster is certainly something that's great when you have a model or unit that needs to survive multiple turns.
Yeah.
Taking one of those turns out, getting there quicker
So
can help that unit.
we have one more rule to talk about on him, and I think all the rules that Pagani just mentioned are rules that we as the dev team feel very comfortable going to
Yes.
the CID about. There's one that we want to see the focus of the testing on the most. He has paralyzing gaze, and he has it in an 8-inch range, which is -2 def to anything that they have LOS to him. So Rotwings for -1, Gorog for -2, Carnage from Anamag for +2 to hit. Like that's just like +5 mat with very little work required.
Yes. I'm probably okay with it because he's a UA. If this guy was a solo, I would not be okay with it.
Yes.
But you do have to pay the price tag for that unit. You are taking a large point investment to get that buff, or debuff in this case. But we'll see.
Yeah.
And then, of course, with Veteran Leader, right? We didn't even put that one in. So Warmongers have the Chieftain that gives the Veteran Leader.
Yeah. So yeah. Then
So they're
+6 by themselves.
they're like mat 9 for the base unit, I believe.
Yeah.
At that point,
No,
they're 6 base, right? Or are they 7?
No. The Warmongers, they're 6 base.
6 base, yes. They go to 9 without caster help. And they have Berserk, of course, so they will just kill everything in their melee range. I remember in playtest, I played against Jack, and he played Rias.
Yeah.
And Rotnai and one Warmonger on her feet turn made it into my army and killed like 14 models, I think. That's what it was.
Zizok on Twitch chat says, paralyzing gaze is just an aura. I'll read it to you real fast. It says, while in this model's command range, which is 8 for him, enemy models with line of sight to this model suffer -2 defense. So basically anybody who's in 8 inches that can see him, and he's a medium base.
And he is a character.
And he's
that
a
is
character.
being asked in chat. He is a character unit attachment.
Yep. So definitely when you test, if you're testing, please try out the Anamag Rotwing Gorog combo to just get that very easy +5 and let us know if it's too much. Tony, our amazing video director, has been putting up a bunch of questions from chat that looks like we missed. So we're going to go back and answer a few of these. Once you, we have some from Cheesebeard.
Cheesebeard's got 2 in here.
Get
Good
it.
job asking the good questions, Cheesebeard. Was Typhon considered at all during the playtest cycle, given it being the Ogryn's bonded beast? He feels a little pricey in his current state. Pathfinder, ? Winky face. Yes, he was considered.
You go ahead, man. I got nothing to add to that one.
No, that was it. I mean, he was considered. We're not really sure. He's at a point that we are upset with where he's at right now. If playtest shows that he is not performing and stuff in this CID cycle, it's possible that he could be brought in. but that is at our discretion.
Yep. Cheesebeard also asked, was there talk of no quarter versus battle-driven and designed for Gorag? We discussed a few different options. We specifically wanted no quarter for just the bonus movement and the Pathfinder. We really did not want to add more strength or any possible armor buffs from taking damage. We also wanted him to be able to trigger it whenever he wanted.
Versus your opponent being able to control it.
Yeah, we didn't want your opponent to be able to control that for you. So while you're not hitting harder with no quarter, it is you are in control of when no quarter occurs.
Sung Su, which I believe is one of Jackson's boys back from Colorado.
Yep.
So cheers to you if that is you. He asks, can we talk about the previous CID unyielding test/discussion? We cannot really talk about the discussion, but what we can say is it's going through, and you can see that on the new unyielding wording on all of these Blighted Ogre.
Yep.
So spoiler alert, when the correct CID drops, which should be pretty soon,
Yeah.
that change will be implemented then.
So that's all the new stuff that's coming out in this cycle, but we have a significant amount of legacy changes that we're making. I believe we have 11 legacy models, including both Gargantuans, are being changed. We don't have the concept art to pull up, so it's just going to be us talking about
You
it.
can see my beautiful face.
Yeah.
Look how bald I am.
Tony,
This light is very unflattering.
Tony, if you
Thanks,
want to
Tony.
cycle through any of the old concept art while we're doing this, you feel free. If you just want to leave our faces up, man, I don't, whatever. If you want to turn a camera on you and just have a picture of your face.
We can do that.
All right, cool. So let's start with the caster changes.
Okay.
Thagrosh 2.
Yes.
Thagrosh 2 had some significant changes. So why don't we go through all of it? I mean, first is def increased.
Def and speed both
Yeah.
popped up, which is great. Like, I think those are obvious, just marked increases. There's nothing bad about gaining speed or defense.
His breath weapon got a little bit of a change, then it became a magical spray.
Yes.
Which is minor but useful. His feet got completely redone, though, and this also included a change with a new spell in that he picked up Aggravator and lost
The single target aggravator.
The single target aggravator, which I can't remember the name of at the moment. But his new feat is that he casts Manifest Destiny for free, and then
all of his beasts get to charge.
Charge
and
Slam
for free.
Yeah, Charge Slam or Trample for free. Yeah, and a free Manifest Destiny is pretty awesome.
Yes. So one of our goals with him is to sort of make him a more aggressive warbeast caster. So whereas his old feat let everybody move and attack and stuff, that was great. It didn't feel as powerful as we necessarily wanted. In my opinion, this feat is an upgrade. I have already seen a couple people in the CID forums saying that we nerfed his feat. If you do feel that we have made him worse as a caster, please provide that feedback. It is not our intention to do that, and it is something that we will absolutely be listening to. Because we don't... This isn't a guy we were looking to tone down. So if you feel that he was toned down, get in there.
Play some games. Give us your battle reports. Let us know.
Show us how he's not functioning currently. Show us how he's not an interesting caster to you anymore or something like that, and let us know that.
Real fast, Matthew Bunting in the chat says, #Hungerford hates Florida. That's not true. Disney World's in Florida, which is my favorite place to ever be.
But it's a magical kingdom. It could be anywhere.
No, it can't be.
It's like it's in a little bubble.
If I walk outside this office, there's not Main Street, and I can't walk to Space Mountain.
You could. It's a long walk.
No.
Long walk.
No. Absalonia 1.
She got some cool stuff.
The Terror of Everblight.
I'm really excited with the direction that we're taking her at the moment, which is sort of this. Her concept is that she modifies her beasts, and hers are like special, unique versions of the war beasts that other casters get.
She's basically doing like spontaneous evolution of them
Yeah.
mid-battle. So the big changes with her is that her feat became both proactive and reactive in that it heals all the damage like you used to, but it also picked up rapid healing, which is really strong. And what there are, there's certain abilities in the game that stop healing, but this gives you a way to play kind of around, say you have something with Entropic Force in your way or it's coming up, you might be able to feat, heal what you need to, and then walk up and take it out, and then still have the rapid healing on the next turn. So I think it's going to be good that it's affecting both the turn you do it and then the following turn as well.
As I said in the notes for it, it makes it a little more active of a feat, so you can use it sort of as a defensive feat. It's no longer just this, if they've managed to leave something on a couple boxes, it's this relevant feat. It really opened up the uses for it, and that makes me very happy.
She picked up 2 new spells as well. One we're used to, which I think Legion players have been asking for a while, which is a little bit more movement tricks. She picked up Refuge, which is very strong in Legion, especially on many of the beasts that have strong range capabilities like the Angelius and things like that. But a new signature spell, call back the old Mark 1.
How 12? Never mind.
No, you hit and move. Hit and move. Shoot and move. Boop, boop. Sure. Boop.
I mean, really strong range presence. You went to the POW 12 Angelus.
Yeah.
I love you. Just for the record.
It's boostable.
Yeah.
Boosted POW 12s.
Anyways.
Boosted POW 12s go casters.
That is still true and has been true since Mark 1.
So-
and will probably always be true.
Now you can kill their caster with the boosted POW 12 and then refuge away. Right back into your army bag as you taste victory and leave.
Yep.
So, cheers. But she picked
We're
up...
on a roll right now.
Oh, we do. We're nailing it. She picked up Playing God.
Which is not Playing God from previous editions. It is a completely new spell.
Yep.
So Playing God gives whatever warbeast you cast it on her mutations that she can use. It also lets her transfer to it for free. Currently, there's no limitation on the number of times you can transfer to it. Test that.
Yeah, you just...
Does that make her too durable? Does that not make her too durable?
Man, you put it on a Gargantuan.
Yeah,
the Gargantuan benefits from the relevant. Oh man, a +1 speed and flying.
She is a super fury strapped caster. So the number of transfers she's actually going to be on.
Okay, you cast it on the Blightbringer.
Sure.
Transfer the Blightbringer as much as you want, but you give her the ability where she gets the +1 speed and flight, and then suddenly the Blightbringer has +1 speed and flight for no reason. But can you imagine that thing just taking flight? Like, that's horrifying. It's a weaponized mouth.
To the moon.
To the moon. It's like just...
You can eat all the cheese on the moon.
Oh, it's just like, oh, gross. We have a bunch of questions, so we're going to go through some of them. Tony, I saw you had a list of questions you wanted us to answer. So let's start at the top. And Philip
Bauer.
He's a local.
He is?
Yeah, plays over
Are
at
you sure
Moss.
it's the same Philip?
It better be, or I feel stupid.
You never feel stupid.
Do you feel, this we're talking about Thagrosh 2, do you feel his old version of Aggravator, the one that happened during the maintenance, was too strong? No.
No, I just think it was
We just think this one's better.
an it was an overly complex version of a rule that didn't need to be that complex.
Dan from Chicago asks, how is Thag supposed to be different from Absalonia 2?
I mean, I think they do reasonably different things, right? Absalonia buffs threat range and every turn basis from Manifest Destiny, and then when you do have that one big push turn, that's when you feed with Absalonia, and you go in and you get your big push, and then Thagrosh is more consistent on a turn-to-turn.
Yep. Cheesebeard asks, Thagrosh 2 changes, the Thagrosh 2 changes look like a good direction, but the arm buff still feels out of place, having a weird passive and not being self-cast. Is this the final form of Thagrosh 2, or is it possible he'll be able to cast his arm buff on himself at some point?
This is certainly not the final form. This is CID. Give feedback.
This is
Play
not
games.
even his final form.
No.
No.
His power level isn't over 9,000 yet. We get to mention it twice.
Oh, we nailed it. Yeah. When you play some games,
Memes.
do your battle reports, see if it would have mattered. Don't play a battle report just trying to prove that one point. Play a game and then make a reference to it in your report to us.
Also, the feedback, I can't cast my arm buff on myself, is not really feedback. Just for the record.
White Souls Gaming says, hey from France, Forced Evolution was a great spell for her. Agreed. Any explanation on the removal of this one? Yes, because playing God now allows the model you cast on to benefit from her mutations. That means you've got access to +2 strength, which Forced Evolution did, +1 speed and flight, which it didn't, and then Ashen Veil, which is concealment, and then
Very
still...
similar to the
Forced Evolution,
+2 defense.
the +2 defense. So when we added this Playing God ability and all that it can do, you couldn't have Forced... If you had Forced Evo, I mean, obviously you can't go on the same model because they're both upkeeps, but it was a lot of overlap, and we wanted to remove that redundancy in her spell list.
And I realize some people might say, well, I get the +2 defense against everything, whereas Ashen Veil doesn't work on, say, Gargantuans.
Yeah, but you picked up
as well, right?
Yeah.
But you are also picking up +1 speed and flight,
Yeah.
and whereas Forced Evolution was just very simple, +2 to these two stats, this spell to me is a lot more interesting and sort of exciting for players.
Yep. Stephen Brooks says, any thoughts on the Blight Burst, Blightbringer spells, such as bringing one in line with the other? Feel free to start a topic in CID. We don't have any specific thoughts on that.
Actually, I don't believe either of those are in CID.
No, Blightburst is on Absalonia 1. Yeah. And Copper Flame X asked, why did you take Thagrosh 2 more beast-focused, even more so than making him more infantry-friendly? Because that is the role we want him to fill.
Correct.
There are more infantry-focused casters, there's more beast-focused, there's more toolboxy, so on and so forth. And Thagrosh 2, in our minds, and where we want him to play, is one of the several beast-focused casters in Legion of Everblight.
Balthazar 1113. I like the
1113.
because it's 3 1s and you add them together and you get a 3. It's perfect, beautiful. With Playing God, does the beast have to force to get her mutations, or does she use them and the Playing God beast copies them? When she uses them, the Playing God beast copies them.
Yep.
So the beast does not have to force for these.
And she keeps it for free on him for resourceful, so she doesn't even have to pay for that. And so literally she spends the fury, does the mutation, the beast gets it, then she transfers to it for free multiple times. Ah, it's so good.
Yep. So things to test for Absolution. Check out the free transfers. Talk about that.
Yep. So let's move on from our casters to our non-Gargantuan beasts. We'll get to them in a bit. We're going to talk about the Carnivian, the Scythian, and the Ravagore real fast. We made some small but important changes here. Some cost changes and some effectiveness changes. We'll start with the Carnivian.
He dropped a point. He picked up fire on a spray.
Yep.
Nothing big.
Not damage type fire, continuous effect fire.
Correct, yes. So he just gets a little more potent and a little cheaper. Like, this isn't any massive change that we expect to make huge waves or anything. It's just a little push.
Yep.
So
The Scythian.
dropped 2 points? 2 points.
Yeah,
He didn't change other than that.
Yep. And the Ravagore.
Dropped 3 points.
And
In Rat 6?
no, he's still
Rat
5.
5.
Yep. So mainly these are all point changes we want to make. You're going to see a little bit more significant changes when we get to the Gargantuans, but that chassis we felt overcosted, and so we addressed it. We're still looking at these beasts to see what else we can do with them. We're pretty happy with what they all individually do, so we're not looking to remake the wheel here with these beasts, but if there's some slight tweaks, we want to see people's thoughts as they test them. Do they feel they still underperform for their point costs? Let us know. Jeremy Robertson says, are the Nephilim lights likely to see any changes in the CID? Anything's possible, but it's not our focus.
It is unlikely, is
Yeah.
what I would say. Sorry.
Swamp Miss asks, if Thagros 2 is a beast focus caster, why does his arm buff designed for infantry? Is he intended to take a single unit of them, or are there other options available? Even if you are focused on one thing, doesn't mean you are focused on it to the exclusion of doing other things. And especially when you play Steamroller, you have to have units to take certain types of zones, you have to have solos for flags, you have to have beasts for the other types of zones. So, even if we say you are mainly going to bring war beasts, it's okay to take a single unit, maybe 2 units, some light skirmishers, and have an upkeep that will help keep that small investment alive, which is what Thagros 2 does.
I mean, you can also, Chosen, right? Like, they love armor.
Chosen do love armor. If your only infantry is Chosen, go nuts. Let's talk about the Legacy Ogren, bringing that up. So, Blighted Ogren Warmongers, they got a point reduction.
Big point reduction.
They're 813 now.
Yeah.
That's
I wanna
the
say
same
they
as
were-
Bog Trog Ambushers.
I think they were 10-16 before.
That sounds right.
So this is a significant point change.
And they picked up Unyielding.
Yeah.
So we're talking
Which I
about...
think will help them stick around a little bit longer. We're like, as I was saying a little bit earlier when we were talking about Chosen, we were looking for ways to differentiate Warmongers from Chosen. So cost is a big one here, right? There's 7 points less for the max unit. You get 5 in both, I believe. And then they needed to be a little beefier. Unyielding helps out with that.
Yep.
Chosen are going to be your super anti-ranged guys, and then they're going to fold to heavy warjacks and melee. And then your Warmongers are going to be sort of your cheap frontline, get work done, need to be shot, but actually do die to shooting type unit.
Yep.
So that's sort of how I see those 2 units interacting and that kind of stuff. Yep. So, and then if they do get there, right, like they hit pretty hard. And then Gorog, of course, is a great mat buff or rad buff for any of your faction because of Paralyzing Gaze.
The Warmonger Warchief, the solo, he picked up Unyielding like the other ones did. He also picked up Powerful Charge on his War Cleaver, going up to Mat 10.
Just a little buff.
Just just Mat 10 on the charge. No big deal. The War Spears.
Didn't change at all.
They didn't change
at all.
whatsoever.
Either them or their UA. One of the reasons they didn't change is we felt, at least I personally feel, that they're in a great spot. That unit does a lot. The assault change that happened back in the Signar Trencher CID, Gravediggers, help them a lot. They don't murder their buddies anymore when they assault, which I think was always
super
hilarious.
nice.
But it's nice that doesn't happen anymore. And then of course with Anamag strength buff, they go crazy on POW. Thagros 1 I think has the strength buff.
But Anamag can cast it multiple times on different units
yeah.
because it's not an upkeep.
Oh yeah.
So.
And then you don't have to wear all this weird stuff. They get the dark shot from assault, right? Because if they assault into melee, these guys just go ham. They kill armor like crazy. And that's kind of once again the differentiators between these 3 units: War Spears, Warmongers, and Chosen. War Spears to me are your anti-armor. Warmongers are your anti-infantry. And then Chosen are your beefy tanks that can also crack armor. And then, of course, with impact attacks and stuff, they can do a little bit of infantry clearing themselves, but they're not going to be as good at it as warmongers.
Yep. The Warspear Chieftain, no major changes.
No changes at all.
But we're looking. They're part of this cycle. They're a major building block of the entire theme force. So obviously they're going to be in the CID.
Yeah. So those are included for feedback. If you think they're great, tell me they're great. If you don't think they're great, tell me why you don't think they're great.
Yep. Blighted Onyx asks, any chance the Warmonger could get leap? No. No, that'd be crazy.
Warmonger Chieftain?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be pretty cool.
He don't leap.
I would want him like in a Spartan helmet with a shield.
How much armor he's wearing? He's a big old dude. He's not. He's not real leapy.
I'll bet you I could jump at least 3 inches.
Yeah.
In full plate.
Leap lets you like jump over jacks, like totem hunters
I
leap.
can jump over Jack.
If he's laying down.
Yeah.
I'm talking like an ironclad. You just bang into it. Pink.
Qualifications.
Let's go over the last big change we made.
Okay.
That's the Gargantuans.
Yeah.
Archangel and the Blightbringer are both getting updated here because they both needed some love. And so, where do you want? Let's start with the Archangel.
I'm pretty excited about the Archangel right now.
Yeah.
Picked up an armor. Picked up a new Animus.
Picked up a great new Animus.
Picked up continuous fire on its
Ranged attacks.
Dragon's Breath.
So let's talk about the new Animus. The new Animus is +2 to all fire damage rolls in, I believe, it's
10 inches.
10 inches, yes. And then fire condition effect doesn't expire.
Yes.
That's
It's real good.
Real good.
Real good.
We need you to test that with Croak Raiders, please.
Croak Raiders, I think it like breathes new life into Tariffs. I think you can create this Lilith 2 gun line now with an Archangel and Tariffs and Ravagors. That's going to be real strong again. I'm just really excited about this thing. I think it does a lot of really great stuff. Survivability is always an issue with this Archangel. I think that +1 armor will help out there a little bit. Play some games with it. Tell me what you think. I think we may not be there yet, but I think we're in a great direction for the Archangel. So.
Prince Raven says, my big question for the Archangel is why can't it just be Rate of Fire 3? Because...
Well, I mean, because we don't want it to, right?
Yeah.
The answer, why can't it just be this, is because it isn't, is unfortunately the answer. Because the reason we don't necessarily want it to is, one, variance is nice in games. It keeps things interesting. If you can always plan for everything, sweet. It honestly, if this thing became a standard rate of fire, it would almost certainly be 2, not 3. And I think we can all agree that D3+1 is better than 2.
Yeah.
So.
Tony, would you bring up? Tony's been saving a couple questions that we missed earlier, so we're gonna go back to the top and we're gonna hit a couple questions before we start talking about the Blightbringer and all the changes you got. Prince Raven asked, did you consider a death buff on the Canadian chassis and giving them back their speed? We're actually pretty happy with what they're doing in terms of their output and their defensive capabilities right now.
In general, when you're looking at changes that happened in the Mark II to Mark III exchange, things that were taken away or changed, reverting them is usually not something we want to do because those changes were done for a reason.
Yep.
And in this case, I think it was done to help differentiate them more from the Angelus, Nerif, and Seraph.
Yeah. Blighted Onyx asks, is the Ravagor Animus set in stone? The concrete is pretty dry. It's not to say it's completely unchangeable, but we would need a very, very strong reason, and we feel that having that Animus does provide something to several of the different casters in the faction. We would need to figure out what to replace it with, and it would have to be... We have not found anything yet that we want to replace it with, and we're very happy with it. So is it set in stone? The answer is not.
It's CID, so no. But
no, but it's pretty
without
close.
Yeah. Without a good idea or a really compelling argument for changing it, probably unlikely.
A Sailor Twift. Is that Chili?
No, his is like...
Because he's a
Taylor Swift fan 420 or something.
Okay. So Chili's fake account. Proteus being the same chassis as the other three we just talked about. Anything planned for Proteus? Are you happy with the current one? We are happy with the current Proteus.
We're happy with current Proteus.
Yep. And we actually talked about Proteus actually at length because Absolonia was going in this. And we finished our review and said, pretty good with where Proteus is at. Benep says, is there any chance that you would consider 8 wounds for heavy infantry again, or is it out of the question?
I mean, I sort of already touched on this one, right? That was one of those sort of core concept changes that happened in the Mark II to Mark III change. And obviously, there are some things that still have it. I'm blanking on the circle name.
The
Warpwolf.
Yeah.
No, not Warpwolves. That's the beasts. Skinwalkers. Skinwalkers have 8.
The Skinwalkers, the Convergence infantry all
Convergence
has.
infantry still have it. So we are certainly not opposed to it on medium-based infantry, but we certainly wanted to make it feel special.
Get 'em in posse only in blind water.
Correct. Yeah. So these 8-wound medium-based infantry units, we want to be the elite of the elite 8-wound infantry units, right? So this is certainly not something that's going to be returning wholesale, and certainly not something that's going to become common.
Zizok asked, I'm a huge fan of updating the Gargantuans and Colossals, which we're going to get to the Blightbringer and finish that discussion here in a second. Any chance at all that they'll get their own cycle like the battle engines did? I would not expect a Gargantuan-only cycle. I would expect us to deal with the Gargantuans we want to change as the appropriate cycles come up.
I think that's fair.
And One Up Kid, is that One Up Kid?
It could be One Up Cold.
One Up Cold.
It could be Nell.
Yeah. How does Legion's small-based infantry like swordsmen and legionnaires fit in with the new vision for Ogren? Well, in Primal Terrors, they don't.
They don't, yeah. Because they're taking in different themes, right? In general, I think they're already fairly well differentiated. Swordsmen are faster. They have high defense. They hit like freight trains. The swordsman probably hit harder than all of these.
Yeah. Anamag with the swordsman list.
Yeah, oh my god.
She feats to give them the Dark Shroud. They've already got Weapon Master. Then she does the Fury spell on them. And they're gonna murder. They're legitimately going to murder heavies.
So swordsmen, I think, are pretty different already. Hex hunters, they have stealth. They bring multiple attacks if they get off their battle wizard. They bring a lot of utility with Shadowbind and Hexbolt.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about that.
Legionnaires are a more durable screening unit than Rotwings. Like, there's just a lot of different things.
I think we're already in a pretty good place for differentiation between all of these units.
So let's talk about the last legacy model we haven't touched on yet, which is the Blightbringer.
The Blightbringer.
Made some pretty significant changes. First off, his mat went up to 6.
Woo!
Got a point reduction.
Woo!
Had some changes to the Blighted Breath weapons and how they work, specifically Withering Ash.
Withering Ash was changed to bring it in line with some future rules. And that's all we're going to say on that.
We're talking about.
We're not talking about it.
We're talking about.
We're not talking about it.
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 Okay.
We're not talking about it.
Rocket Men are sweet. And the Animus.
I love Rocket Men.
God, I love Rocket Men. And the Animus also got less fiddly. Effectively, when you hit them, the spray comes out, and now you just hit all the models underneath the spray template. So you don't have to stop and make all the individual rolls. It works like a Biothrall Purge. Put it down, hit them, roll your damage, good to go. So now the Animus is just easier. Just easier to use.
I mean, I think it's a pretty strict upgrade, right? Like, it lost 2 POW, because we don't really want this thing, like, let's say a Gorehound walks up to this guy and punches it 3 times. We don't really want the Gorehound to die from punching it 3 times. I think more of the goal of this is to clear out jamming infantry that charge it, and to be like this really thematic, sort of fluffy Animus. And I think it does a great job at that, and now I think it's a much more useful Animus.
Yep. So we've got about 7 minutes left. We typically try to keep these to an hour. So what we're going to do is we're going to answer a few more questions from the chats. We're going to go, Tony has 2 for us right now that were brought up. So why don't you take the first one? I'll take the next one.
Oh, good, yeah. That seems
appropriate,
apt.
yeah.
Matthew, sorry if I butchered that.
Charon!
For the Blightbringer, as he feels a big support piece, any plans to have his aura either 10 inches or have a way to put his shot in a 10-inch bubble for some defensive play for early defensive tech? So it's 5 inches right now, I believe, for the aura. He is on a huge base, which is just under 5 inches wide. So at the moment, it's about 15 inches wide. If we make it 10 inches from him, it's about 25 inches wide. And then I just don't think positioning really matters anymore. Could we increase the range of this? We could. Is it ever going to make it to 10? I would be skeptical of 10.
I don't think we want to increase it at all. I mean talk about it.
We could talk about
don't.
maybe 6.
Oh, I don't know.
But even then at 5, right? If you take, let's just say you take 2 Blightbringers. I don't know why you would do that. Let's say you take a Blightbringer and an Archangel.
One to put playing God on, and the other one for Wild Aggression, and you're absolutely a double Blightbringer list that does nothing.
I mean, she doesn't have any infantry anymore, so it probably isn't a super great list. But look, man, if you want to run absolutely a double Blightbringer, you do you.
Neil. Okay.
But at 5 inches, you can even get it all the way across a huge base, is kind of what I'm saying here, right? So, like, if you have a Blightbringer and an Archangel and then something on the other side of the Archangel, it can even already get that aura. So I'm not super worried about the size of it in terms of where it goes at the moment. To me, much more of a worry about that is how does it interact with placing the ranged attack. for your offensive plays. So the aura is not really where I would look at.
Yep. Neil Rose, I don't know why Tony gave us this one, but I'm asking anyway. Does Hungerford own multiple Thagros shirts, or is it the same one every time? It's the same one every time.
It's very dedicated.
I have a washer and dryer in my house, so they are clean. Don't worry. So we got about 5 minutes left. Let's look at the chat and see if there's any questions we want to answer before we send everybody back to the CID forums.
Boop, 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 boop. Paul Jonas? Johannes?
Yes.
Johans.
Paul.
Third time's a charm.
Paul Johans.
Let's not get racist here, okay?
What?
Calm
No.
down. Calm down. Any plans for factions to get a generic theme force to allow players to play a mix of units? That is currently not something that we are looking at exploring at the moment.
Yeah. Am I reading Boiling Blood wrong? It happens once and expires. You are not reading it wrong. It happens once and then it expires. That came from Copper Flame X.
Ooh, good name. Good.
Actually, let me check the language you put on there and make sure. Why don't you grab another question real fast?
Oh, yeah. More questions?
Yeah, it expires. It expires after you do it.
We also have one from Copper Flame X that says 5-inch aura plus speed 4 has not made a great impact.
Make it +5 speed with flight.
Sure, you can do that too. I think this guy's running on turn 1 basically every game. So I think he is 8 inches outside your deployment zone plus 5 inches of aura is 13 inches outside of your deployment zone, which is farther than basically everything in your army can run except for, I guess, speed 7 stuff, which can lose an inch if you want it to stay in the aura, or not if you don't. Like, I think that's plenty. And then on the next turn, you're either charging, in which case you should be in the AoE that it shoots, not hanging out, hugging it for buffs, or you're not charging, in which case you're probably not committing much farther than 4 more inches past that anyway, because you don't want to get charged or shot or whatever would stop you from committing. Yep. I don't, I mean, show me, right? Like, to me, this isn't a problem. I don't think that speed is particularly an issue.
I've got 3 rapid fire ones I want to do real fast. Cheesebeard asks, is it possible for Legion themes to be revisited in any capacity during the CID during the new releases? Golab is very Ravens-esque. We're not looking to do that. We're definitely trying to avoid any sort of wish listing during the CID so we can stay focused. We've got a limited amount of time, so we definitely want to do Primal Terrors and the things in it. We are open to other things being reviewed if necessary, but please keep any, in the actual CID forums, stay focused on what we've presented first. Another one real fast. Someone says, any love for Saren? I love Saren.
You're going to wreck me. My God. You just told all those people they could post anything they wanted in CID.
Yeah. You need something to keep yourself busy. We love Saren. Will the Crucible CID start in mid-March, hoping for later? It won't be.
I'm sorry. That comment looks like it's blurred out a little bit. I can't see it. Can you see it?
What's a Crucible?
I don't know what a Crucible is.
That's weird.
Tony, you know what a guard is? Nope, he doesn't. Look at that face.
Someone, Dan75X asked, what's the end date for the CID?
It is in the announcement that went out on the forums. I believe it's not. It's 3 Mondays from now.
Yep. You see any you want to answer before we start shutting this down?
Any chance of seeing Bethane or Krissa come into the CID? Anything's possible, but probably not.
Cool.
Anything to look forward to at Captain Con from you guys? From Smarter Child? I'm not going to Captain Con. I don't think we are going to Captain Con as a company.
Yeah, I don't believe that Privateer has a presence at Captain Con this year, and I'm sad I've never been able to make it out to that show. Everything I've heard about that show has been awesome. People seem to have a ton of fun at Captain Con. So even though we personally won't be there, everybody going, we hope you all have a great time, and I look forward to hearing all the games and seeing all the photos and all the cool stuff coming out of it.
Cheers.
And if anybody sees Hacksaw there, just give him like a sweet high five from me. Just yell, Hungerford, jump. He'll know
Probably
it.
really loud.
Probably.
On the mics, yeah.
And final question. Let's do the last question. Copper Flame X, let's do for each of us. What model he actually says each of you. What model do each of you think needs the most testing? Which model, single model, in your opinion, you had to pick one, needs the most testing? All right, I'll answer. Anamag. Anamag's got a lot of different buff stacking that she's capable of. She also works in other themes outside of Primal Terrors, which we do need to see some of at some point. Outside of our own in testing, we need people to try other things and see what other combos, like we mentioned Swordsman earlier, and the amount she can bring to them. So most everything in this cycle is in one theme, and Anamag is in all. And so I think she's going to need by far the most testing. You?
Probably Chosen. I think those guys are pretty crazy. Okay. Like, I'm really happy with where they're at, and they're really exciting to me. But I'm just always worried that whenever I get really excited about something, that it's too good.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Yeah. So CID is started now. You can go to cid.privateerpress.com to sign up if you would like to participate, play some games, give us your feedback, and help provide an even better experience on the tabletop when these models finally come out. Mm-hmm. So thanks everybody for joining us. We love you as much as we love each other, and we love Tony. Tony, you were great, by the way, the whole time.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony. So we'll
thank all of you.
Yeah, thank you
for coming and hanging out and asking questions.
Thanks. It was good seeing you.
It was.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Are we going?
Yeah, let's go.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.
Oh God, Tony, it's gotta fade. We can't make it. No.